It's back for Arfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Arfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end. Oh, what a goal! What a goal from Robbie Blake! Burnley's first goal in the Premier League is something very, very special.
Wade Elliott has that change of pace and he's got away from Montgomery. It's the path of McCann and the follow-up finds the net. What a strike from Wade Elliott! A bolt from the Claret and Blue.
Oh goodness me! What a goal from Patterson! If that is to be the one that takes them to Wembley, you cannot argue with that. Pure quality.
Here goes Mike Conroy. Still time for a winner, maybe. John Francis! They came to York in their thousands. They're going home as champions.
I mean, if there's any justice in the world, Burnley would surely score from this corner. Swung right in there. Ball in there. Yeah! Michael Kennan! Oh, that's justice! That is justice at the Amex Stadium. Burnley are level and deserve to be.
Hello everyone and welcome along to the latest episode of the TurfCast podcast full-time show with me, Joe Redmond. As you can see, it's Dan from Turf Morehouse. How are you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm not too bad. Not too bad.
Happy days. So obviously Burnley 0, Blackpool 0. We all went into this game with so much confidence. And to be fair, every single Blackpool fan that I spoke to didn't have any confidence. The Blackpool fan on the pre-game show said we'd win. I worked with a Blackpool fan who backed Burnley to score more than 2.5 goals. I was on the Longside podcast by Vizzy the other day. He had some Blackpool fans in the chat, and they were saying there's no chance we'll get anything out of this. Just didn't click though, did it, Dan? It just didn't seem to come onto the pitch, really, did it? Like the Burnley that we've seen in certain games, especially Huddersfield, it just weren't there today, was it?
No. It almost had a typical feel to like how it did on Wednesday against Fleetwood. It was very similar, flat performance. We didn't even really look like entertaining their goal. It were a lot of sideways passing, trying to break them down. We can look at it in two ways. We can look at it in that way and say that maybe it was us and a lack of attacking intent. Or we could put it down to the fact that we need to find ways to break down 11 men behind the ball. And I think that for me has got to be the key thing. Yeah,
definitely. I agree with that. Get your comments in on the match. Sam Emerson, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sam says, ready for a good listen on my drive home. Keep me entertained, Joe lad. Hopefully I do that, mate. You should really be watching YouTube while driving unless it's connected to your air thing. I don't know how it works. Just wait for the podcast in future, mate. I don't want to be responsible for a silly crash. The True Red says, very frustrating game, but you have to credit Blackpool. They wanted that fighting for their lives to survive. A point would definitely help Blackpool more because you're so far ahead. Yep, I do agree with that. Inky Punk says, hey up, I blame the we going up, you're going down chance. It must have wound their players up to really dig in. So it's your fault. Yeah, thank you. Well, it's funny that because that chant wasn't started by us. Well, it was, but obviously the your mum's your dad, your dad's your mum, you know, that chant. They were singing that to the beat of the drum. So Burnley fans just took over it and just changed it to you're going down and we're going up in the tune of that. So every time they tried to give us shit, we just give it them back, and it was just funny. Claret 1 says, evening, Jordan.
Hey,
how you doing? We've just been talking about you, mate, off air. Good to see you today, mate. Tony says, I did not see the match, but really believe we are missing Manuel Benson. Yeah, I just want to talk more about the actual match itself before we go into stuff like that, Tony, but I do agree with you. Dan, you said there, Fleetwood match. It was very similar to that, wasn't it? I agree with that. But Blackpool did just set up in the two banks of four and didn't really want to play football. They just wanted to defend. And again, it's not me criticising them. That's just me observing how the game was played. Every time I looked, it was just two banks of four with someone up top chasing the balls down and then someone else chasing the ball down at the other side of the pitch. And then we were trying to break that press and get past that front two. And sometimes we'd do it. Sometimes we'd have to go back and then go long. But then when we got past that front two, we've still got 8 players in front of us, 8 outfield players in front of us. And we just weren't quick enough with the ball, were we? I just thought we weren't passing it around quick enough. We were too slow. It felt like the Fleetwood game, and I'll say the same as what I said on the Fleetwood game. It felt like an early season game, before it all clicked. It just felt like that. Like, why do you think it started to feel like this recently, Dan? Well,
I don't know.
I think that sounded a bit more negative than
well,
it did.
yeah.
Just the last 2 games.
I don't know. I think some people are putting their own spin on it, saying that pretty much it's job done, but you can't say that. We can't say it's job done. Yes, looking at the points, you'd say that it is, but don't out with that comment. Sort of a player's mentality should always be, the next game, it's winnable no matter what. It could all come crashing. Look at Sheffield United, how it can turn. I could see Borough overtaking them at this point, but I don't think we're going to fall to that sort of same notion. Teller for me was a big no-no today. That he couldn't get the ball out from his feet. Like players were trying to play it into him, and usually he's always the one, forward trying to attack us going forward, and he just wasn't reading the passes either. Losing Brownhill was a big miss as well. Credit to their keeper, by the way. Chris Maxwell, I think he had probably their man of the match. But we just couldn't seem to break them down. They literally were so happy. You could see the camera angles when it were panning round to the fans. The home fans were so happy as a pig in shit, because as soon as they saw that there was a chance of getting a point, that to them was like 3 points this season. They have managed to stop us from gaining 6 points against them. They have drawn with us twice now. Again, this is the first time we've not scored in a game since the Watford game.
Yeah.
And they've managed to stop that. There's positives for them, but we've got to learn from it. And I said at the end, I was almost a bit dejected at the fact that we had a 0-0 against Blackpool, but I shouldn't, because of what I've been saying is the Millwall, Luton, Watford game. They were tough games, but we're coming up against a bulk of teams like Blackpool, Wigan, Hull, that are playing 11 or 12 cup finals now. And that's going to be a challenge. And if they think the best way to get a point in a game that they could class as a free hit is to stick men behind the ball, they're going to do it. We've got to find ways to break that. And if we don't, then it could come back and bite us in the backside.
Yeah, Terence says, Teller lucky not to get a second yellow card. I do want to say, well done to Nathan Teller for getting that first yellow card. It was right in front of me. Yeah. I was shouting, foul him now. Why are you not fouling him? Bring him down, foul him. Then he fouled him. Brilliant, Nathan Teller. Thank you very much. But yeah, could have easily got a second yellow. But I thought
the Asters, they were a bit there, weren't they?
Yeah, I think if he hadn't already got a booking, he'd have probably got booked. But I do think it was. Yeah. I think it would have been harsh for a second yellow, if that makes sense. But it's funny, you said like there, Nathan Teller, you found him frustrating. I thought he was one of the better players today. The players I thought played well with Teller. His end product wasn't there, so I think some people have already given him a bit of stick on Twitter for saying he wasn't. He played well, but I thought he was the only player providing an outlet and trying to make things happen. Look at Zarori, for example. He got on the ball a lot, but I don't think he beat his man once. Every single time he cut inside. And I love Zarori. I've said before, I think he's probably my favourite player. Definitely one of my favourite players from the summer signings, but I think Bay has slowly overtaken him. I love that lad. But today, it just felt like he just didn't have many ideas and he kept cutting inside. And you remember that goal he scored at Sunderland where he had the ball on the left, cut inside, pinged it into top court. He tries to do it every fucking week. And he's not done it since. Well,
it's not just once he tries to do it, though.
Yeah, he does it every week.
During these games.
Yeah, he does
it's
it
like 3 or 4 times a match.
But some people might say, he scored against Huddersfield. He did, but it weren't the same. It was kind of a cross. But when he tries to do that move, it doesn't work. It was a brilliant goal. Fantastic. But just stop it, Zarori, please, if you're watching. I know you are. No, he's not really. But, I thought he was poor. I don't want to slag players off. So I was using him as an example to Teller, who I thought was better. I thought Bayer played very well. I've just mentioned how much I love him. It was fantastic. I love the way he comes out of defence with the ball. It's just so effortless and gets past him so easily every single time. And I thought Cullen played well. I thought them three played quite well. Ekdal played well as well. but there was a couple of occasions where he just looked a little slow, where they were counter-attacking, and I thought, hey, is this guy not as fast as we thought? But maybe just he was up against a pacey striker, I'm not sure. But he still played well. I won most of his aerial duels and stuff, probably all of them as well. I just were a little bit suspect on his pace. Who do you think played well then, Dan?
I agree with Cullen. I agree with Bayer. Again, like you said, Ekdal, for me, there were a few little incidents where they've tried to counter and he's, blowing out his arse to get back and try and sort it. Connor Roberts, for me, stood out as well. I think he was heavily involved in a lot of the moves trying to get forward, orchestrate passes through. I think they came with a game plan as well to stop us on the wings. We were being man-marked throughout it. As soon as we came forward, there's 2 or 3 players round Anas, there's 2 or 3 players round Teller. And it's hard to have confidence to be able to beat them. My only problem is just get the ball in the box. Again, another problem with Anas. The balls that do come into the box, they're always on the ground. Put some heart on them. Get some heart on them. I thought Barnes was pretty quiet, apart from, I think, at the beginning of the second half, he came on and sort of helped out a little bit. But he had to come back and sort of sit in as a midfielder, almost. It's a frustrating day. It's a frustrating game. And we should look at it as a positive because, seeing second place Sheffield United lose, it's a point difference. It's a point gained on them more than anything. And we shouldn't grumble. But you'd have always took a point away from home. It's just where they are in the division and how we've been playing. We've sort of become accustomed to be just walking away with 3 points. And I think that's why it's almost a little bit disheartening as well.
Yeah, Kenny Bridges says, at least it wasn't a defeat like Sheffield United again, which I think will end up in the playoffs, by the way. The Borough will snatch second place, in my opinion. Thanks, Joe. Kenny from Canada. Bring on the next up, the Clarets. Thank you, Kenny. I, for what it's worth, thought Sheffield United will still get second until maybe today. I'm not sure. I think that's going to be a battle that might go to the last game of the season and could probably go either way. I'm not sure because Borough lost last week as well, didn't they? So I think they're a little bit hit and miss, although they smashed Reading today, to be fair. But we'll see how that one happens. We've spoken about, there's some comments coming in now. Baron von Greenback, which is the best name I've ever seen. I missed a trick there, not calling my little boy Baron von Redmond. I should have done that. Teams are now just parking the bus, hoping for a draw, same as Fleetwood. We are the Man City of the Championship. It is exactly that. But my problem with that is, which is perfectly correct, Baron, as Dan's just said as well, but this time 3 months ago, to something like that, teams were doing this to us at the turf and we were still finding a way. Every single time we found a way. At the minute, we're just not finding a way. And there's someone said in the comments, Chris P, we are missing key players to the system. Yes, of course, we're missing about 6 or 7 players that would have probably started today. Obviously, I want to speak about someone that I think we missed an absolute shit ton today, and that was Ian Martson. I thought you could just see how much he brings to the team. I love Vitinho, but he's another one that I thought was a little poor today. Quite a few poor passes and caught in possession a lot and not getting forward as much as Ian probably would have done or would have tried. However, it's probably more of a way Blackpool played rather than a criticism of Vitinho. But yeah, we're missing quite a lot of players, aren't we, Dan? I think that's part of the reason why this sort of run of fixtures, I think, has caught up with us recently.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Obafemi come on and play out wide. It's clear to see Obafemi out wide it's just not working. I'm surprised Cherlinov wasn't in there. I don't know whether there was a knock from Wednesday or something like that, because I thought when he came on against Fleetwood, he had a blinder. I thought he actually played really well and put up his case to be at least in the matchday squad for Saturday. So I was shocked at that, seeing his name not even on the bench. But yeah, we've seen Vitinho playing a bit more as an attacker, or sort of, playing a bit more forward than what he has. And when he drops back, I'm still trying to work out Vitinho a little bit of where is his best position, because he started out on the left, then moved on to the right, and it worked out for him for a little bit. Then obviously the injury, then he came back, played in an attacking position and started playing well. And then this game today, it was almost like, it wasn't the game for you. All players have off days, and I get that. But today, I wouldn't even say we had... Could we say we had an off day? to a
I think
degree.
so. Yeah, I think so. We just weren't. I know people will always point to how Blackpool played and how they defended and stuff.
Yeah,
But I think we would have been good enough on one of our days to break that Blackpool team down. The second bottom for a reason. The six
yeah,
adrift or five adrift now with a point for a reason. They're not good enough. And Burnley would have brought them down if they weren't having an off day. But obviously, as we mentioned, there's a lot of players missing as well. You mentioned there as well. Games are catching up with us. But yeah, I think it was off day. I think too many individuals had individual off days. Zorore,
yeah.
Vitinho. I'm going to talk about Twine in a bit because there's been a comment. In fact, we'll talk about Twine now, actually. Kurt Lehman says, saw some good flashes from Twine again, but also moments where he was weak. That sums it up perfectly. Like, I watch him sometimes and I'm like, yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And then he does something silly. And I remember turning around to my dad at one point going, he's a soft bastard, this guy. He needs to just bulk up a bit. He gets pushed off the ball too easily and he ends up getting caught in possession because of it. Just needs to be a bit stronger. I love him. I obviously the free kick he scored against West Brom was fantastic. Nearly scored again today, probably a little bit too central, to be honest. But yeah, what you think? Because again, he came on for the injured Brownhill and then got took off again. So I don't know if Vinny were thinking that maybe he wasn't up to scratch. I'm not sure. What were your thoughts on Twine?
Again, he was hit and miss. Like 1 minute he's involved in the game, 5 minutes later he's not. It looked like a bit of a lost cause for me. In that game, it was a case of he was on the pitch, but you very rarely saw him doing anything. And when he did show up, it actually you could see the class that he's got in him. It's just every now and again, it's in drips and drabs, and it needs to be. You need players to be a bit consistent. And don't get me wrong, yes, he's made a leap up from League One. He's had half of the season out injured, and potentially, in the long run, he'll gain that confidence. But for me, Twine's still a talent to be nurtured, I think. And I think we're still yet to uncover his full potential.
Yeah, I think he needs, because obviously he got injured, then missed a lot of time. I think he's playing catch up at the minute. I think he just needs to maybe a bit of a reset, hopefully the end of the season. But obviously, of course, then we're going to be in an even higher league, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on there. Obviously, you've mentioned as well, and there's some people in the chat that watched your live stream of the match, so you were watching it on, I presume, a perfectly legal streaming device.
Oh, perfectly,
yeah. Brownhill, obviously, it happened right in front of me again. Just seemed a little bit innocuous. Obviously, for those that don't know, I'm sure you all do. Brownhill has added to the injury list. It looked like he couldn't put weight on his foot afterwards when they were trying to pick him up and get him to walk. But it was just a little bit innocuous. There was no one anywhere around him. He kind of stumbled and slipped. And then two Blackpool players started closing him down because he'd slipped. And then he managed to pass the ball back to Ekdal, I think it was. And then we realised he was injured. Did you see anything little bit that gave more away on the footage, or did he twist his ankle? What happened?
It was more about his landing more than anything else. I think as Connor Roberts has played the pass, he's sort of anticipated it coming towards him. He's ran towards the ball, but then sort of like jumped to try and stop it from going out. As he's took that touch, he's sort of landed, and on the AstroTurf, which was literally where the line is, it's gone from pitch to AstroTurf. And he's sort of just rolled, but his foot hasn't rolled fully. It's sort of just like he's landed at an angle and gone like that back onto his foot and sort of dropped down. But yeah, it does look like he twisted his ankle or, bent his foot in a little bit. And then obviously still managed to get the pass back, in pain.
Yeah.
But you could tell at that point that I even said at the time, I said, I will be surprised because Brownhill's not one of those that will just go down and, stay down. Not usually anyway. It'd usually be up and the person who did it'd nip at their ankles. So I've had an inkling that if this is serious, he's gonna go off. And then obviously he did for Twine, but hopefully it's gonna be a little bit like an Ian Matson sort of one, and we just look at it and go, oh, it's not as worse as we first feared, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, this is what I love about this sort of this live show, because we sometimes chat about stuff and people in the comments know more than me, because I've not watched an interview, for example. Kurt Lehman says Vincent has said that Brownell injured himself as the grass changed to AstroTurf, and obviously Dan, you just said that. And Solent Clarets, I have just put it on the screen, says watched it in slow motion. His ankle twisted when he slits. But Graham does say it's a horror one. I really felt for Josh horror to watch. Sorry. So it's like I said, watching from the stands, it looked like nothing because I couldn't see the slip, I couldn't see the ankle turn, but it was the fact that he couldn't put weight on it. I think it looks to me like ligament damage, and ligament damage is what? I'm no physio. It's 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's the fact that he's just gone with momentum and thought that that's it. He's getting to the ball, he's keeping it in, and when you've got momentum, you put your full force of body onto that. And when he's gone down and obviously done what he's done, it did look like you could tell he'd hurt himself as soon as he dropped, because he sort of winced as he drops, and then he thinks, I've still got to sort of play the game. I'm still on the pitch. And still ends up managing to make the pass back to Connor Roberts, who supportingly obviously kept hold of it and said, like, come on, he's like really hurt himself. Fair play to the referee for that as well, because he could have easily just said, no, you've still got the ball, continue. It's not an head injury, but fair play. And Blackpool players didn't grumble either. So, I just feel for Brownhill, because he's actually been quite decent this season for us. He's been quite a rock in there, whether he's had to push forward as a sort of number 10 or sit in with Cullen and Cork and do the donkey work sometimes. Yeah, I think he's been brilliant. So fingers crossed he's not out for as long, but 6 to 8 weeks, that potentially put him out for the rest of the season?
Yeah, well, we're speculating, aren't we? So what is it now? March the 4th. I should know. That's my son's birthday tomorrow. If it is 8 weeks, then he's pretty much out for the season. Probably come back towards the end. But we are speculating. It might not be ankle ligament damage. It might just be cramp. I don't know. Fingers crossed, it is just cramp. I do like Brownell, and I like the fact. You remember when Scott Arfield and Matt Lawton as well? Like they'd always have like the family would always be in and around the club, like on Twitter, engaging with the fans. That's what I love about Brownhill. His dad's on Twitter engaging with Burnley fans, his sister, his brothers. I love that. I kind of feel like he's really got the community spirit, and that's why his family got into it. So I hope Brownhill isn't out for too long. And not only that, of course, he's a key player. That's obviously the most important thing. But I know he's got a bit of stick recently from some sections of the fan base. I'm not really sure why. I don't think he's been playing that bad. He's had
Some are saying that when it comes to us attacking, he looks arsed. But when it comes to us having to get back and defend, he looks like he don't give a shit.
It depends on what role he's being told to play. If he's in the number 10 role, it's not really his problem, is it? It's down to the Cooks and the Cullens of the world. So I don't really have an issue with that. But he has been playing in that number 10 role these last few games. It's been good to see against who was it? Huddersfield, and same again today. We had the Brownhill and the Cullens in the middle, which give Brownhill the license to go forward a bit more rather than have Cork and Cullen as a double pivot. However, obviously, Brownhill's looking like he's out now. So what do you think we will do going forward? Do you think we'll go back to the Cork and Cullen as like a double pivot and just have that extra sort of like protection? Or do you think we're going to be seeing a lot more of Twine, maybe playing just behind the strikers?
I think we've got to give Twine game time. You don't want to spend $4 million on a player who's not got quality to showcase. And I think it would give his confidence a lot of boost, especially in the games against like Hull and Wigan. I think Goodmanson's done well since coming in and starting a good couple of games as well. Because I thought, him in that number 10 role as well, and we all know he used to do as a Rory, like to cut in and take shots from range. But from in a number 10 role, I think he'd actually be pretty decent. Or even, dare I say it, this is just taking a big punt and a big risk, but drop Barnes into that 10 role and push Teller more forward.
Yeah, I do like Teller in the middle. I don't think that would have helped today, just because how deep Blackpool were, and Teller's pace is what gives him. But yeah, Goodmanson. Obviously, Goodmanson plays traditionally in that 10 role. It's just with Brownhill, he gets the freedom with Cullen being behind him. I think we're likely to see for the next few games Cork, Cullen, and Goodmanson in that number 10 role, with then obviously the 3-4 strikers around them. I think that's how we'll play it. Be interested to see. But obviously, Goodmanson's been playing quite well as well, so that's not exactly a massive issue.
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, I've actually enjoyed some of his passing and movement. Some of the plays that we've had from the Dash era, we've looked at and thought these aren't going to adapt. These are going to struggle to adapt to what we're doing now. But they've took to it like a duck to water, and I can't fault him. Goodmanson's come back from many an injury, and proving the doubters wrong. He's certainly proven me wrong. Similar with Barnes. Got no problem with them both. I think they've both been phenomenal.
Yeah, Matt Lowcock, good to see you again today, mate. He says Cork on 2 CDMs and JBG in the 10. Yeah, I expect that's probably what it will be. But we shall see. A lot of talk recently about Darko. I know we've mentioned him briefly, but I like the fact that sometimes people in the chat know more than I do. I was expecting him to either be on the bench or maybe even be pushing for a start today. If he was on the bench, I expected him to come on around the 55th, 60th minute because he looked good against Fleetwood. And I think Darko has looked good in certain games. He's come on and just looks like a rough diamond, like he's a little bit rough around the edges. But we just need to fine tune him to make him into a better player to get what we need out of him. But surprised to see he wasn't on the pitch today or on the bench. Have I missed anything? Has he picked up a knock? Is he injured or did he just fall out of favour for this game?
It's a strange one because nobody actually knows what it was like. Even I think online, it didn't really say that there was any injury to him, or in sort of the team news. So I was a little bit shocked to see him not involved because I actually thought he'd have had a cameo. And like you said there, Matt, I agree, not had much game time. But in a game like this, a diamond in the rough could have been one of those where he shone.
Perfect to bring off the bench at 0-0. We were missing that impact. I know a lot of people have said we miss Benson. We do, but he's been injured for 3 months now. We're kind of used to halfway out him. Today would have been the perfect game to bring Benson on, but it also would have been perfect to bring Darko on and say, right, use your pace and your tenacity to get at these players and try and make something happen. But obviously he wasn't there, so I just felt like it was a bit of an unusual one to not play him. If he has just fallen out of just not been picked, like we say, he could have picked up or not. We don't know.
But then this is what I don't get because, I know a picture doesn't say 1,000 words, but, the picture of him smiling all over his socials afterwards, after the Fleetwood game, knowing we've gone into the quarters. I'm not saying that that's not a man who's injured or he isn't, but he was full of good spirits, so he's on a high. A lot of things happen in footballers, don't they? The personal life, things like that, maybe. So it could have just been one of those where he got left out for personal reasons. That he's come to Vinny and said, "Look, I can't play this week. Mrs. is going out with girls. I need to stay at home and watch the dog."
He's waiting for a delivery, something like that. But yeah, Matt says, "Look good every time he's come on. It's strange to bring on Halil over Darko." Yeah, I agree with that. I just expected him to play a bit more. Honestly, I did. Stephen Wilson says the club have stopped giving personal information about injury. They never really did. I was saying this to my dad today. It's like, because my dad said, "Where is Benson? How long is he going to be out?" And I'm like, "We don't know. We just keep getting told that he's nearly there." That's all they ever say. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know if the journalists have an agreement to not ask too many questions about it anymore, because there's been a big change in the journalists recently. Obviously, Chris Borden's gone, Alex James has gone, and even Andy Jones is now covering Liverpool at 50% and Burnley. So there's been a big change, and some new journals have come in. So maybe they don't have that trust with the new journals, or maybe the new journals don't ask the questions enough to push it. But I just don't seem to know where Benson is or how long he's got left. I don't seem to know where Jay is or how long he's got left. And I'm now worrying that we're going to end, like we were told that Martson's shoulder injury is only a minor one and he'll be back in the frame soon. Obviously, I thought today would be too soon. But then is Wigan going to come too soon? And then the game after that, like, we're not being told anything really about injuries, are we, at the minute, which is interesting. Like, but I don't know where Benson is. I don't know how long he's got left, and same with Jay.
No, I mean, we've known for quite a while with Jay that his legs are a little bit dodgy every now and again. Benson, again, like I say, the time frame, not a clue. But the Matson one, he had that picture, didn't he, where he had his arm sort of in a sling, and then next minute, I think day after, he's there and he's like fresh drips and trying to, be all cool and that. So I don't know. Wigan, I think, should be all right. He's got a full week really to recover. I can understand him being out a lot longer if he were a keeper. You know, they're your bread and butter. You need them fully functioning, so that I can understand. But I'd say Matson's back for Saturday, or at least in and around it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Simon Ed has just joined. He says, now then, fellas, hope Brownell's injury isn't too bad, but heard he was on crutches with a protective boot on. We have just been talking about Brownell, so we have missed that chat. However, we didn't know about this, so I've come back to it. That's how it started with Benson. Benson's still wearing a protective boot, or it was when I saw him against Huddersfield, when he was on the pitch against Huddersfield, still had the boot on. The boot does tend to mean that they're out for a while. I know sometimes it's precautionary and people can use examples to say, oh, well, X, Y, and Z was on a boot and then he was back the week after. But with the way that Brownell couldn't put weight on his foot and now he's wearing a protective boot, surely it's 6 weeks minimum, 6 to 8 weeks. It sounds to me like ligament damage, ankle ligament damage.
But then yet again, I didn't think Zaroury would be in and around it. You know, after he came off against Fleetwood, I thought,
yeah. But I remember watching that at the time. I remember seeing that at the time, and it was just like a little nip on the toe, wasn't it? I remember thinking, like, is there any reason to go off there? It started making me speculate, saying maybe it's a metatarsal injury there, like the impact's broken his toe. Obviously not. But yeah, it's an unusual one to for him to.
And Teller got a bit of a knock as well, didn't he, today? I think as he were trying to challenge for a ball, we ended up getting the corner, but I think as they've tried to stop the ball from going out for a corner and it's ricocheted off the ball for the players, he ran ran behind the goal, but like clutching his toe a little bit. But either way, he must, typical FIFA one. He ran it off. He'll be all right, Jeff.
Yeah, magic sponge out. Matthew Norris says, Vinny said that they were looking to keep Benson and Jay out till after the international break. Vinny wanted them back ASAP, but medical staff wanted longer. See, this is what I love. I did not know that. Thank you, Matthew, for letting me know. I will stop pestering now for answers on Jay and Benson, because obviously we're going to have to wait till after the international break. But it's Wigan next, and I know a lot of people have been saying, a week to recover. And then we'll be fresh. There are some midweek games in the Championship, actually. So if I can just quickly check, maybe Wigan are playing. But I had this mentality the other week, which has kind of ended up backfiring today, because obviously we didn't win the match. It's all right if these players are injured. We're only playing Wigan and Blackpool next. Obviously, Blackpool ended up getting the point, so that mentality was kind of sort of like proven wrong. But Wigan, they're playing on the 7th at West Brom. So Wigan have got a midweek game and we don't. So I saw someone earlier sort of like saying, oh, bloody hell, I can't remember who it was, bloody hell, 7 days until a game. It's good. But the games have been coming too thick and fast. I think that's part of the reason why we look so lethargic today. Obviously, Blackpool's tactics didn't help in the pitch. We've been getting injuries. So it's good now that we have a break, playing a lesser team in the division. Sorry, lesser is not the right word. A poorer team. The league table doesn't lie. A poorer team in the division. So even if we do have all these injuries, with their playing in midweek and the fact that they're a little bit rubbish, we should be all right, shouldn't we, against Wigan? We should get back to winning ways.
Should do. Wigan have been dead for, I don't know, since the season began, to be honest. It's only recently that they've started to put a bit of a run of results together under Sean Maloney. And it's another game that could go two ways. They could have momentum going from the game midweek into the weekend, or it could just be a game too much for them. We'll have to see. But a week to prepare for a game, usually, you're a bit more revitalised, rejuvenated, you're going again. We're at home as well. So, usually we're not too bad at home. I don't even think that many times this season we've really got out of first gear against teams and still beat them comfortably. This is what I think we may be against Wigan. But as I said to you at the beginning, every game they've got now is a cup final. And they're quite close on points down at the bottom. Cardiff winning today probably would have gone, God's sake, for a few of them. But never rule out the teams at the bottom. Like I say, it's dangerous. It's dangerous territory. They're harder. They shouldn't be harder games, but the business end of a season, for some reason they turn up. I don't know why, and I always ask myself the question like, why? How do these teams manage to put something together now, but haven't been able to do it for the last 35?
Yeah, obviously got a result today at home to Birmingham, who were also a bit poor, to be fair. But as Matt said, it was just on screen for a few seconds. He says, Dunno. Excuse me, gassy beer. Says, Dunno, new manager, they're getting a few results, could be harder than we think. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a walkover, but I do think we should have enough to beat them. Admittedly, I thought that today. But again, the differences will be at home this time. The pitch is bigger at the turf. It's a good pitch. I don't know. Obviously, again, you watched it on, and Matt, you were there as well, so I thought you might have had a similar perspective to me, and anyone else who was there, let me know. But I was looking at the pitch from where I was stood, and I just thought, this is a very, very, very small pitch. It's really compact, and that's going to stop us from playing our... I'm not saying that they've done it for today, but that stops us from playing our game, the fact that the pitch was so small. Whereas at the turf, I feel like it's a bigger, wider pitch. And the quality of the actual pitch, as Matt says there in the latest comment, a lot smoother at home. It was very bobbly today. I actually saw Cullen, Ekdal, and I think Brownhill miscontrol the ball in the space of 2 minutes because the pitch was that bad. So yeah, I think at home, Wigan, bigger pitch, smoother pitch, as Matt says, which is always nice. We should have enough to beat them.
Yeah, we should. That pitch today were atrocious. I don't know whether they put flaming pigeon food down on it because it was full of them.
Oh, mate, they were winding me up, them pigeons, right? Brave.
That's all you could see on screen. I found myself
them.
watching them. I found myself watching these pigeons more than the game sometimes. It was so infuriating.
There's like 15,000 people there, 22 men running around on a pitch, and these pigeons are just chilling. I thought, if you go within 100-mile radius of one uptown, they're flying off. So fair play to them pigeons. They've got big balls over in Blackpool of the pigeons.
But... to be fair, like I say, you could tell the difference today because we were spraying the ball from one wing to the other, which just goes to show how short their pitch was. You know, we don't do that often at the turf. We work that pass out to the far side, or try and work it back. You know, Roberts, Ekdal, Bayer, still always trying to ping balls into the wingers. Yeah.
That is brilliant. That, by the way, I could not do it that well. Who used to do it? Who used to do it on TV? Used to summon the pigeon down on Shooting Stars.
It was Shooting Stars. Yeah, Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer.
That's it. Yeah. I used to show my age again there. Some younger people at chat were like, "What is it all about?" I mean, it feels like someone said in the chat earlier. It feels like a defeat because we've been winning so much. It wasn't a defeat; it was a draw. I'll tell you who did get beat. Sheffield United. So we are now a point closer to winning the league than we were at the start of the day. I'll say this very quietly, and I'll only ever say this once. Thank you, Blackman. However, Middlesbrough won, so that gap has closed now from 18 to 16. I'm not even looked at the league table yet. Oh no, it's only 18 or only 16, whatever it is. But yeah, it's as Company said. I can't remember his exact quote, but in the context of things, it's a point gained, isn't it?
Yeah. And Mick McCarthy has a very good record against Burnley. I think it's only Derby and Coventry, I think, with the two teams he's got better win ratios against. Does old Mick. So again, you know, he seems to know a way to get round Burnley, it seems. That said, though, it's a point gained. It is a point gained. They're fighting for their lives. You know, and their fans were writing them off. Again, another game similar to Fleetwood where they could just turn up. Whether they were at home or away, it didn't really care. It was a free hit for them. And I think a lot of teams are going to come to us now and go, let's just play our football. If we get something, we get something. If we don't, we don't. This is a free hit. Burnley top of the league. I've never come to a point where people are coming to Turf Moor or we're going to their ground and people going, if we get beat, we get beat.
Yeah, I did feel like it was a little bit. I know people say, we played like that in the Premier League, but again, it's different in the Premier League. But I'd be a bit frustrated if I was a Blackpool fan watching my team set up like that in the Championship. But no, needs must. They got a point. They might look back on that when they stay up by a goal difference. I think what a brilliant idea that was. I just feel like if you're the home team, the onus should be on you. To try and win the game. But again, I fully expect I'm kind of contradicting myself almost instantly. I kind of understand why they didn't, of course, because we would have picked them off. But thank you to everyone in the chat who has told me it was called the dove from above on Shooting Stars, and I'm there going, it was a pigeon. It wasn't. It was a dove from above. So thank you for that. But again, yeah, showing my age. But yeah, just look at the league table there. It's probably a little bit small on your screen. I will zoom in a little bit for you now. So of course, 77 points at the top of the league after 35 games played. The gap to second is a lot. My maths is terrible. What's that? 13 points.
Yeah.
They have played a game less than us. But 13. Look at their form. Our form isn't great at the minute. It's not. Well, we haven't lost since November, so that side of it is great. But there's a lot of amber in there that I'm not a fan of.
No.
Then just look at Sheffield United's LWLLW. They're not in form at all. And as some people are saying, the main thing now will be Middlesbrough potentially. They won't be looking up thinking, yeah, we can catch Burnley. They're going to be looking over their shoulders and getting worried. So yeah, it feels like a defeat today because of the manner of the game and the fact that we've only taken 2 points off a team that's second bottom, and it happens to be Blackpool as well. I'm not the biggest fan of Blackpool because just Lancashire rivalry in it, and some people say they don't care. I do. I would have liked to have beaten Blackpool, but it's a shame. But just looking at that league table, 17 points the gap is to third. So yeah, it's fine, isn't it, Dan? There's been a bit of a meltdown on Twitter, but it's fine. Everything's fine. We're going up. We're winning the league. The old lady is going to be dressed in claret and blue again soon, isn't she?
She is. The old girl is going to be back with us and gleaming in a good old claret and blue. And to be fair, every other team that gets beat or bleeds during this league bleeds claret as well. So sort of.
Yep. The True Red says this is a weird championship season because normally it's so tight, but this time it's just one team running away with it. It was two at one stage. Everyone's like, "Oh, Burnley, Sheffield United running away with it." It's just us now. So we're all feeling a bit down because we didn't get the 3 points today, but we're fine. We are fine. Flyover Fred says we were bang average by our standards today, but most others will be delighted with our performance from today. Yeah, I think you become victims of your own success, don't you? And I think that's been the problem for Burnley today, Dan.
Yeah, big time. Fingers crossed we can put it right against Wigan and all those doubters that think we're maybe potentially dropping off a little bit. And I won't lie, I've said it that I thought some of our performance recently, are we a little bit tired at the fact of a new, this new regime that we're going through? Is it a case of so many games? Eventually it does affect the legs. But these people are paid professionals. They've got to try and find that second wind or whatever they need to do to get results. And fingers crossed it's going to be put back right come next Saturday against Wigan. Yeah,
John Faulkner says, we're spoilt by a no 90th minute winner today. I feel a bit ripped off. Yeah, the guy behind me, even in the 85th minute, we're like, we'll get one. And like I said to me, Dad, like the only reason why he thinks that is because we always get one. So he's going to be like, if you just looked at the balance of play, it didn't look like we'd get one. I remember at one point thinking that they were going to score where they kept having a few chances. And thankfully, they were a great tackle by, I can't remember who it was. Matt Lowcock says, show us the bottom of the league. Okay, I don't know why you'd want that, but there you go, Matt. Huddersfield are bottom on 31 points, then Wigan on 32, then Blackpool on 32. Cardiff have won, so they're cut adrift, actually, now, them three. So the Clarets are going up and you're going down, whatever the song was. Cardiff on 38, QPR 39, Birmingham. Look at QPR's form. They're dreadful at the minute, aren't they? Then Rotherham, then Swansea, Stoke and Reading. I think all of them are safe. But Dan, you think the bottom three as it is they're going down, or do you think someone might put a bit of a run together? Maybe Blackpool, or hopefully not Wigan, because we got them next after 2 draws today?
Huddersfield are gone. I think a lot of Blackpool fans are resided to the fact that they're going. I do think if any of the bottom three are going to stay up, it's probably going to be Wigan. Not at our expense, maybe the games afterwards. But if any team's going to swap places, it's going to be Cardiff going down and Wigan staying up. But Cardiff are putting a good case in at the moment, and the way QPR are going as well, let's not rule them out. Yeah,
it'd be massive if QPR went down. I remember that they went top at one point. Not for long, but they still went top at one point. I think
they could have gone top if they beat us at their place, couldn't they, or something like that?
Yeah, I think that was game after World Cup, weren't it? We absolutely murdered them. Interesting, and Solon always does this. He always listens and goes out, and I presume you're he. I never actually Never actually asked the question. But interesting. He always does this and gets a nice start. Our pitch is only 3 meters longer and 1 meter wider than Blackpool's. Once you submit the dimensions to the FA, you're not allowed to alter it throughout the season. It felt like it would be a lot bigger than that. That the difference would be a lot more. Especially the wide. I thought if it would be anything, it'd be the other way around. I thought maybe 3 meters wider and 1 meter longer. But interesting. It just felt so compact. That's probably just again. Just a sign of how Blackpool played more than anything then, isn't it? Making the pitch look really compact.
Yeah, they did. Like I said, they did put us under a lot of pressure. They weren't letting us get our passing game going. There were a few times we've had to look back towards Muric. You know, they were going at us man for man. Usually we draw people into that and find a way of getting in behind it. But as we were coming forward
so easily.
Yeah, and it's just today it just didn't work because defensively they kept enough numbers back and came forward when they needed to.
There you go. Solent Facts, I'm going to call him now. Blackpool 102 times 67 metres. Burnley 105 by 68 metres. And yeah, Flyover Fred says...
Size matters.
Yeah. maybe it's the pigeons that make it look so small. Daz Morgan says, so-called Burnley fans fighting amongst themselves in the ground. I'll be honest, I was there. I didn't see that. I did see, though, when I was walking down the stairs at the end, an elderly man, not too old, about my dad's age. Apologies, Dad. I know he listens to this. A man like probably a little bit older than my dad, to be fair. Probably like early, but my dad's not early 70s, by the way. Just to get that out there. My dad's 65. So but a guy probably in his early.
Just keep
70s.
Digging, Joe. Keep digging.
Yeah. Sorry, Dad. He's gonna ring me up after this. Go. What's all that about? Yeah, with like blood on his head. And I would take an educated guess and say it was hit by a missile. I'm not saying Blackpool fans did that. I'm just saying that's the kind of injury you see it hit on the head. It looked like a missile sort of injury. Again, I didn't see that. I'm not saying that happened. But I didn't see any fighting. Daz, obviously, maybe you did. Yeah, and I saw a lot of drunk Burnley fans there today. But as you can imagine, they've gone to Blackpool.
Hit me a video on Twitter of some bloke walking practically length sideways.
I've seen it. I remember at first I thought he was like disabled. I'm like, you can't film this. You take it piss out of me. Like, you can't. And then I realised he's pissed. I'm like, oh right, yeah, fair enough, fair game. But interesting. Yeah, Kurt Lehman makes a good point. Maybe ours looks a bit bigger because the stands are a bit further back. Yeah, I guess with the stadium being so tin pot basically. That it does look small. Obviously, getting towards the end now then. Obviously, I always like to end it on the league table, which I've done. And I always like to get your man of the match shouts. So please get your man of the match shouts in the comments. I will put them all out and read them all out as and when they come in. But Dan, who was your man of the match today? Obviously, in a claret shirt. Don't choose the Blackpool goalkeeper, please.
I'm going to give it to Cullen. I think Cullen saw quite a lot of the ball. Tried to orchestrate us going forwards and backwards, put himself about quite a bit. So I'd either give it to him or Connor Roberts for me. I think both stake to claim for it. What
did I just say, Solent Clarets? What did I just say? And then he follows it up. Whoops. There you go. But yeah, don't give it their keeper. Flyover Fred says JBG, man of the match. I thought he did all right. I've already mentioned him. I'm going to mention him again. I thought Jordan Bayer. I thought he was fantastic. The way he comes out, obviously kept a clean sheet. He won a lot of headers. Won quite a few aerial duels as well. And it's just the way he comes out with the ball, just so effortlessly. Runs out with the ball. He helps us beat that so many times. We try and beat the press that their strikers are doing by passing it round and then being too slow like we were today. And then Jordan Bayer will just get the ball and make a beaming run, and he's done it. And it's just fantastic. I think Cullen won it on the coach that I was on. So Cullen is obviously going to be a popular one because of that. But yeah, for me, Jordan Bayer, I thought it was fantastic. I'm just quickly trying to get his stats up now on screen, just so I can see. Yeah, he was the highest rated player for Burnley. Their man of the match was Thompson, not their goalkeeper. It was Jordan Bayer for Burnley, though. He won 6 aerial duels, which was 75% of them. I only made 1 dribble. I thought he made more than that, but I think that's probably just, I don't know how the dribble stats work. Sometimes it looks like you don't make many dribbles when you do. But yeah, thank you for all your man of the match shouts. I've just seen a funny one. Obviously, Flyover Fred says JBG. Simon Ed says Teller did quite well on the coach as well, even though I know a few people got frustrated with him. Dan, you were saying that. I thought at least he tried, just his end product wasn't there. Solent Clarets is now behaving, and he says Roberts. Stephen Wilson says Cullen. True Red says Bayer. Graham says the Pigeons. Pigeons
big shout out to the Pigeons.
Yeah. Matt Lowcock says agree, Joe, but wouldn't say no one was a clear standout for me. Fair enough. Matthew Norris says either centre back or Cullen. Solent Clarets. Actually, before we do go, I've seen a couple of people commenting on Obafemi. What are your thoughts on Obafemi's performance?
Non-existent. Absolutely non-existent. From what I remember, he touched the ball 2 or 3 times. We didn't even look to that wing when he came on. It was all trying to find Teller and hopefully try and utilise him. Maybe bringing Obafemi on, having a bit of pace. They'll try and focus on that left-hand side more than the right and free up Teller a bit. But it didn't work like that. We didn't even find Obafemi with it, hardly any of the passes. And when we did, it went. He just sent it back into the middle of the park. He didn't try taking a man on. He didn't try to, do anything with it apart from make the pass. And I don't even remember him really getting himself involved in the box because we were playing him that far wide. That's one thing that I've hated with Burnley Football Club and strikers, sticking him out wide. We did it with Patterson towards the end. We did it with Rodriguez. We did it with Lafferty. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, we shouldn't keep doing it. We've got enough wingers in the ranks to be able to go winger for winger and not stick a striker up there. He's got the pace to beat the last man, the shoulder of the defender. That's why, for me, it'd be a case of drop Barnes a little bit more and play someone like Obafemi with Teller up top. Have the 2 besties up there and tearing it up. Yeah,
I mean, I agree with everything everyone's saying. I do think Obafemi was a little quiet today, but I mean, as what he's there on the bench to do, though, isn't it? Like, he's there on the bench to make an impact, and he didn't do that, so I can understand the criticism. I just feel like in that kind of game today, where only one team were trying to play football, it's difficult to come on and make things happen in such a compact, sort of like defensive thing, whatever you want to call it, that Blackpool were doing. So I think he's been okay since we've signed him. It's a no-brainer for the reported £3.5 million. I don't want to get into the Foster debate again because we've had it a million times, but I think he's looked better than Foster since he's come here. So
again, that's another argument. Halal coming on instead of Foster today.
Yeah, I mean, it shows, doesn't it? And as Matt said earlier, it shows. I think Matt said something about him coming on before being on the bench before Cherlanov. So yeah, that's interesting to see where company's thoughts are at the minute. But I do think, like I said, I don't want to get into the Foster debate again. We've had it a million times, and I'm sure we'll have it again at some point if he doesn't start scoring goals, or even if he does start scoring goals, obviously we'll have a different type of debate. But yeah, I thought he's looked okay as Obafemi, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for today. But yeah, getting towards an hour, so we're going to start wrapping it up. Dan, unless there's anything else you wanna say, you want to discuss?
No, we just let's put these dead clubs to bed. Starting next Saturday. Let's put these pie eaters, send them back crying. I'm sure a pie crust is thick enough to soak the tears up in it, so they can delve into that. Same at Hull, we go again. We ain't getting mauled by the Tigers. You can keep that chant and stick it up your arse. It's not happening. I want us to get the job done, and sod the City game. Let's not even go there with that one. But in terms of the league, let's beat these teams that we've got around us now. I want us to break that 100-point barrier at least. Even if we don't break Readings, I want us to see us get over 100 points at least.
I don't think we'll break Readings now. I think that's gone. I think we needed to, because we've still got to play Sheffield United. We've still got to play Middlesbrough. We've still got to play them. So there's a few games where you look at it and you think, could be a draw or even a defeat there. But yeah, thanks for coming on the show, Dan. It's been a pleasure. Thank everyone for watching. By the way, I just want to say, actually, I got sidetracked there because you said something and I wanted to talk about it. You just said the best line I've ever heard there. A pie crust is thick enough to soak up your tears. You definitely need to use that next week if we win and someone starts giving your page shit. I won't tax it. I'll let you know. That was brilliant. That
I'll try my best. I'll fit it in somewhere.
Yeah, brilliant. But thanks for coming on the show, Dan. It's been a pleasure.
No, I appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me.
Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you if they don't already know?
Yeah, I mean, I need a shave, so you can find me in any local skip. But at the moment, Yeah, you can find me at Turf Morehouse TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, you name it, we're on it. But keep showing the love to Joe, keep doing what you're doing, and up the bloody Clarets, mate.
Yep, Graham says, great show, chaps. Thank you. That's obviously a perfect way to end it. As I always do say, though, of course, if you join the live stream late and you want to watch it from the beginning, as soon as I end this broadcast, it becomes a standalone video for you to watch at your leisure. I will be putting the podcast up probably tonight. So if you want to listen to it tonight or at any point tomorrow or on your commute on Monday morning, you can do so. But thank everybody for watching. Thank everybody for listening. Thank you, Dan, for coming on the show. And we will see you before the Wigan game. Cheers.